Oh, I forgot. I need a motion to approve the agenda. Brian? Nicole, all in favor? Aye. And there's how many of us today? 5, 5-0. I'm probably gonna count all the time now because there's only 5 of us. Yeah, I won't, I'm kidding. So first up, we have our MTSS data report.
So yeah, we're very excited about MTSS, multi-tier systems of supports, and it's just the board's commitment to curricular coherence, making sure that our programs are aligned, that our curriculum's aligned, that we're doing all we can to use data-informed instruction. We have Dr. T and her team will be presenting for about 45 minutes. There'll be hopefully an open, free dialogue. I'm going to be the facilitator, so if I'm moving us along, there's so much good information, so much data that you're going to have this report, and then Dr. T is also going to be adding some more information from area districts, so we have more of a comparable data set as well. So without further ado, Dr. T will introduce her wonderful school improvement team. Yep. Clicker, make sure to turn it
So
on.
there's no way we can get through all of this. I'm supposed to remind everybody.
Yeah.
So
I would just, I don't have
Up there?
here, take this one.
Oh, it is up there, never mind. Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you all tonight.
I know.
Thank you so much for having myself. Oh, I'm okay, I got one now. I'm all set, thanks so much. Everyone's so
You
accommodating.
have the cool handheld mic.
All right, so I'm gonna kick us off with the 61 slide deck. 61 slides and a slide deck. Like, if you ask me to do a presentation, I'm gonna do a presentation. No, in all seriousness, we are very, very proud of our performance over the last few years, but specifically last year. And so I just want to give you some trends. We do not have time to talk about every detail and every slide. We have some time for some questions and conversation, but I wanna just give you kind of an overview. And then I'll introduce my team when they come up. Does that sound good to everybody? All right, so before we get into this, we're going to start with performance on 3.8 testing from last year. And there's some comparisons. You're going to see us compare throughout this presentation to the RIC. I'll define that in a second. And then to BOCES 1. So when I talk about the RIC, that stands for Regional Information Center. And it includes basically our 19 component districts across the 2 BOCES. Okay, so it's comparing us to all of Monroe County, basically, minus the city and minus charters. So when we look at that data, and then you'll see us compared to BOCES 1. BOCES 1 includes 10 component districts. It's us, we're one of the 10. And also Brighton, East Arundecoit, East Rochester, HFL, Penfield, Pittsford, Rush Henrietta, Webster, and West Arundecoit. So that's BOCES 1, and then obviously you'll see Fairport is Fairport. All right, we ready? So I have ELA proficiency percentages last year compared to this year for grades 3 through 8. In general, what you're going to see in these slides is that grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 all went up, which is amazing. We love that. We're super excited. I kind of did a preview for you on that in the August meeting. 8th grade went down a bit, but so did 6 of the other 9 component districts on our side of the BOCES. So 6 of the 9 BOCES 1 districts also went down. That doesn't mean we shouldn't have gone up. I'm just for comparison's sakes, okay? So you'll just see quickly us compared to the RIC, us compared to New York State, and us compared to BOCES. We're the last 2 in this graph, so Fairport 2024, Fairport 2025. Significant growth in grade 3, very, very proud of that. And we are above New York State, the RIC, and BOCES in our performance. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
No, just refresh my memory. When we say proficiency, like these numbers, 67%, is there a given score, or what's proficiency mean?
Yeah, there is a given score. So proficiency means you're at grade level standards, moving up. Yep. All right. So that's grade 3. Very similar grade 4. Just we're very getting over that 60% bump is huge for us. It feels so good. What we're doing is working. That's what these scores are telling you. Still looking great. Grade 5, grade 6, looking amazing. Look at grade 7. That's significant growth from last year. And you saw our side of the east side BOCES, so BOCES 1 went down just a tiny bit on average across all of the schools on our side. The RIC went up just a little bit. Go ahead.
Say we go up. Can you explain a little bit what does go up mean, like relative to, is it reading comprehension? Is it?
Yeah, so the ELA exam measures reading comprehension, and in general, and then writing responses, right? Extended response, short response, and extended response. So that's what we're measuring. It has a lot to do with being able to read on grade level, vocabulary understanding, and your ability to comprehend and then write coherent answers
And when we say go up, it's the percent of students
that are
in our district
proficient.
that were proficient.
Yep. Eighth, we went down, and like I shared with you in the trend, so did 6 out of 9 of the districts on our side of BOCES. They all went down. So when Brett sends his superintendent report on Friday, you can see those districts specifically and their drops as well, but I don't feel comfortable talking in a public forum about other people's scores. No? Okay. Still doing better than New York State as a whole. All right, for math.
Sorry, do we have
Go
any,
ahead.
since that seems like such a broad trend, are there any thoughts, or it's hard to really derive anything from that?
It's hard to look at it as a trend. When I go to the assistant superintendent of instruction meetings, we will have conversations about where we all saw dips, or where a majority of us saw dips, talking about the standards that we all saw drops in. We've already started looking at our standards and our performance relative to the BOCES, relative to the RIC, relative to New York State on different standards that were released, and that was some of the summer work that happened with curriculum writing. So we've already started to get after that. The state has done such a better job of getting that data out to us in a timely fashion that we can actually do
You
something.
can actually use it.
I know, we had those,
Glad to hear that, yeah.
yeah, we had those reports that really look at standards, or early August, I think, maybe late July. That's the earliest we've ever seen it, yeah.
So you drill down to the standard, you have a group of teachers,
Yep.
educators, leaders who interact, and I think that's the important piece,
Yep.
because looking
Yeah.
at just the bar graphs, it's, you
Yeah,
know,
it's hard to,
Right.
that makes sense.
disaggregating the data.
All right, anything else for ELA? When we start to see the general trend of us moving upwards and headed in a steady direction, that means our tier 1 instruction is working, we're doing the right things, and our tier 3 interventions are working. Growth is something to celebrate all the time. Now, when we look at math, I don't want you to get discouraged. We are already almost to the 75% proficient, like 75% of our students are performing in the proficient range in our math 3 through 8. It's really hard to move the needle after that.
I was going to
It's
say.
really, really tricky. Doesn't mean we're not trying and we won't continue to work on it, of course, but you will see a little bit more variability in our math performance. The big spike that we saw in ELA, we saw a big jump like that a couple years ago in math.
And that aligns with when they both got coherent curriculums.
That's
correct?
right. Yep. I believe our next year 9th graders will have had expressions their entire elementary career.
Wow.
And I think we're close, if not, am I right, Stace? Are we close to that? And then for ELA, we really did full implementation just 2 years ago. So it's really encouraging results right now. All right, math. So in general, you ready for this? 3, 5, and 8, grades 3, 5, and 8 all went up. 7 stayed flat. 4th and 6th went down, but so did 6 of the 9 districts on our side. So interesting, and they're not always the same 6. So that's always interesting too. So you'll see that in the Friday report. But here we go. So grade 3, we went up from 65 to 71, right in line with the performance of the east side of Monroe County. 10% better than the RIC, 11% better than New York State. So very encouraging. Here's 4th where we did a little dip, but it's still, we dipped, but we're still right around the east side of the county in our proficiency rates, and then higher than New York State and higher than the RIC. 5th grade we went up in our proficiency rates. 6th grade we went down a little bit, but you'll see even though we went down, we still are outperforming New York State, the RIC, and the East Side BOCES schools with proficiency rates in grade 6. So it could, sometimes, Rich, just to go back to your question, sometimes there's tests that are written that are just really, really hard.
I know.
And you
I was
see
gonna
those
say that.
trends happen with people. So this is a moment in time, we know that, and we talk about it like it's a moment in time. It is also one of our best ways to look at standards and performance on those standards over multiple questions and comparing us to other districts and schools. So.
One of the other things too is across the board for ELA and math is the cohorts of kids.
Yeah, I was going to
So
say that too.
sometimes your cohort of kids, you're not comparing the same group of children, right? So you're comparing last year's sixth
Yep.
graders with this year's sixth graders versus.
Right.
So the cohorts of kids change too. Not that it's a huge, but just one of those other.
Yeah.
variables.
And that's going to be part of Friday's report too. I know Lisa Christensen always asks me, and I wish she was here because I was ready for her question. She
Don't
always
worry, she's
asks me
probably
for
texting
to follow a cohort of children. So I have that for you for the Friday report. I'm ready. All right, 7th grade, we stayed flat. I mean, 82%. Like,
I know,
whew,
that's amazing.
it's hard to get much higher than that. It's really, really hard. Again, we're always working. 100% is always our goal. We can always do better. But just look at our performance compared to the rest of the state and the county. It's very, very encouraging.
Yeah.
And then 8th grade, woo! I mean,
Off the charts.
and
Okay.
that, by the way, is just on the 8th grade math, not the algebra regents.
Oh, that's
So we've pulled out those kiddos.
Accelerated kids did not sit for that exam.
Yeah.
right.
Okay? I know, big deal.
It is a big deal.
All right. So that was ELA and math. We also have a science test, and we give it in grades 5 and 8. So we've got last year and the 2024, so 2023, 24, 24, 25 to compare. That's what I'm comparing when I'm comparing those, okay? In all of the scores. So Fairport, we went from 45% proficiency rate up to 61% in our science. And I don't know if any of you have children in these grades, or have talked to your neighbors who have children in these grades or little siblings or anything. But in grade 5 and 8, this is an intense test that is very, very heavy in language and understanding scientific terms as you're reading through dense material. And Stacy, I would also add that you have to go back and reference graphs and things as you're answering questions.
Similar to the setup of like an ELA assessment, where there's
A passage and then a bunch of things.
some phenomenon and they have to use their context from what they learned in class to apply. So it's a higher level.
Yeah, this growth is great. Go
And
ahead.
does our mystery science elementary stuff, is that still in 5th grade? Sorry, I have all the littles, so I'm not.
Yeah.
They're still doing mystery science and it aligns to,
Yes.
Awesome.
And there is, with the New York State science for the 5th and 8th, there is required investigations, like labs that kids have to do over the course of those years.
okay.
So it gives them some of that experience where they would do some performance-based tests that apply the science to scenarios.
Okay.
One of the labs I have to do is creating a cloud. That one sticks in my mind. Yep. Yeah, we're creating little scientists. It's pretty exciting. And then grade 8, you'll see growth here too. We went from 55% proficiency 2 years ago. Last year was 64%. And again, outperforming. So this isn't, for me, this is an indicator of all of our tier 1 instruction working when you look at science, because it is so language rich and it is so math dense that you have to be able to have those skills and use them together in science. So we're doing a really great job.
So overall, I know. we're
No, you're
getting to
good,
the
Brian.
Next part, and I know 100% is always the goal, but you were saying as we look at these charts like year to year, and as we get this like 75, 80% is kind of the learning target. Like as long as we're getting them, like if we're only at, we're not gonna say we're only at 78% or something.
No,
like
we
that,
can't
right?
say that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Some districts are crawling to get over the 50% mark, right? I am always happy if we're showing growth or steadiness, right? So little dips here and there are fine. If we start to see some major things, then that's when I'm like, whoa, something's happening. And if we're the only ones experiencing those major things on these state exams, then there's something happening.
So the fluctuate, looking for the.
You're gonna fluctuate. Yeah, you will fluctuate a little bit, but big and the only ones or one of the only ones, that's an issue.
In Fairport, we've had a hyper focus on curriculum alignment, unpacking standards, and I think that's what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But you're also seeing educators collaborating and having conversations on those standards, and I think
Yeah.
that's a credit to the team of just putting the work in and aligning the curriculum. So
There's not a thing that happens in the curriculum and instruction world that happens in isolation. I don't ever do my job alone. Jackie, although she's in charge of humanities, is with Stacy all the time. Lisa, who comes in front of you quite a bit with MTSS, is kind of the glue that keeps all of us together. We have conversations every month. We have CNI every month for curriculum instruction, and at the table are all of the directors. Social emotional learning is huge in this too, right? Kids aren't learning if they're under stress or they're not coming to school. And so we've got to make sure all of these pieces are working together. So yes, curriculum writing and everything else.
What a good segue to your next slide.
You're welcome. And here's our chronic absentee
That was
rates.
beautiful.
Not where we want to be, right? We want kids in school, and we are making, like, we're doing good things. So us compared to the RIC and us compared to Eastside BOCES 1, we are doing a great job. And all those kids that aren't there, we are working so hard to get them back into school, right? So again, for definition, chronic absentee, 10% or more of the days. We have such a very strategic attendance initiative happening with supports for families. I think all of you are parents, so you got my letter before the school year started on how we're going to be keeping track of attendance as families are getting closer to that 10% mark, reminding them of supports, and then having people to reach out to them to support them. So
I remember we saw last year there was some notices of attendance and stuff. Did we see any improvement with that, or was it kind of?
Ish. I would say ish. I am going to compare our first marking period attendance report to y'all for this year compared to first marking period last year, and I think that would be a better place for us to look for some of those trends and really moving the needle. And what we know about chronic absenteeism is that it becomes a symptom or a condition in a family oftentimes. So if one kid in the household is chronically absent, most likely the siblings that also live there will be chronically absent. And so we're really trying to wrap our arms around families so we can get after that rate in a holistic way instead of trying to whack-a-mole, which is not a great thing when we talk about kids. We're never whack-a-moling. But, you know, we need to come up with a comprehensive problem-solving model for each situation, and oftentimes those are family situations that we can support. All right. Now let's talk about Regents. I spend a lot of time talking to y'all about 3A and elementary, but we are doing such a great job on our Regents exam, so I wanted to get these in front of you too. I'll then move into some AP highlights, and then I'll turn it over to the teachers because you don't need to hear me talk. Okay. All right, so just for some background information, the state in its infinite wisdom has 2 different scales that they score Regents exams on. So ELA, math, social studies are all on a 1 through 5 scale. Science is on a 1 through 4 scale. That's in the short.
I was just
Until
gonna
the
say
news
that
test.
changes.
Yep.
Tests will be 1 through 5.
Yep.
And we are,
Yeah. So right now you're going to see me present on, you'll see mastery is defined differently depending on which content we're talking about. Okay? So 3 means you met the standard, so 65 and above. You'll see 3+, that's every kid that got 65 and anything else. So a majority of our kids. 4 will be meeting expectations, that grade level. That's for the 1 through 5 tests. That number is, you know what that is off the top of your, around a 75? Yep. 70, 75-ish, something like that. And then mastery in a 1 through 5 is 85 or better. When you look at your 1 through 4s, proficient is 65 to 84, and mastery is 85+. Mastery is always 85+. It's the middle that's a little wonky sometimes. I know.
We couldn't just stick to the number grades.
Yeah, I know. All right, so ELA. Let me just get to my trends here. Just for a Regents overview, so again, you're going to see us compared to the RIC is in blue this time. This is not longitudinal. This is just last year's performance in the Regents exams. It includes January, June, and August. Okay, if any kids sat for the exams any of those times, that's included in this. So our 3+, so kids that passed 65 or higher, it's a majority of our students. We're doing an amazing job, but we are higher than the RIC and BOCES in all of our ELA performance. Look at those mastery numbers. Close to 75% of our students had an 85+ in ELA. That is also an indicator that all the work we're doing, pre-K through 8th grade, 10th grade is working, because this is typically taken in 11th grade. All kids have to sit for that test. Global, little bit, I mean, nothing bad, but we were outperformed by BOCES 1 in 4+, and then mastery in global. Not a big deal. We're still doing great.
was that, I'm trying to remember if it was US or global where there were concerns across the state with the exam.
Do you remember, Jackie, for last year? Global. It would be
I
global
thought
if it was
global,
anything.
but I wasn't sure. Okay.
And so students to graduate need to pass global or US history. but you can see our kids are doing amazing. So again, we outperformed everybody in all areas on that one. All right, let's move on to algebra and geometry. Here's our algebra kiddos, doing a great job, outperforming everybody. Just sidebar, our Algebra 1 kids in 8th grade, 100% passed every time. And look at that mastery. Whew, it's a lot. Geo, outperforming everybody. Go ahead.
That was my sister, and so I was like,
Oh, shout out to Mallory's sister.
no, it's very impressive.
She got a mastery score? Okay, all right. Yeah, good job, Kenzie. All right, there's Algebra 1. Geo, we're doing a great job in Geo 2 as well. Not Geo 2, Geo as well. Here's Algebra 2. Right in line with BOCES 1 and then for the 3+, but our mastery and our 4+ are outperforming everyone. Now let's skip to science. So we're going to change our scale. Everybody ready? 1 through 4 now, okay? So 3+ and then mastery. Again, the 3+ is 65 to 84, and then that's 85+. Doing a great job in earth science. Oh, let's look at our 8th grade earth science. Was this your sister too? Oh, Kenzie! All right, 100% of our 8th graders passed the earth science, and then 100% got an 85 or better on earth science. Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. Living environment levels. And we are doing that new test next year, Stacy, so is that correct? This June, so next year we'll do. So next year when I report to you, the living environment will be on a 1 through 5 scale. We'll just keep being confusing. I like it, but we're doing great. Chemistry. Three. This year we're taking the living environment new regions. The following school year we're taking earth and space. And then the following year we're doing chemistry and physics. Yeah. We are going at the pace New York State is requiring us to go at. Yep. Here's physics. And then AP. All right, I'm going to turn it over, I promise you, in just a second. I just have a couple stats here for you real quick. This first graph that you'll see, I know this is a lot of information and too much on one slide. This is our participation rate. Not every student that takes AP takes the exam. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Sometimes families are like, I don't want to pay for it, fine. Sometimes the kid's like, I took this class as an experience. I don't care what I get on this. I don't want to spend 3 hours taking an exam. So sometimes it's that. So you see our participation rate. So on the far hand side here, 49 out of 77. So 77 students were enrolled. 49 of those students took the exam. So the participation rate for AP Bio was 64%. Does that make sense? And then we have like German language and culture. Only 19 students were enrolled in AP German language and culture. And only 2 of them actually sat for the exam. All choice, fine, it doesn't matter. Just, I would like to know if anybody watches, 2 things. Jeremy and I are working on a potential BOCES COSER that will make AP and SUPA exams very affordable to close to no cost for our families. So that might be a game changer in what exams families choose to sit for. The other thing 2 other things. One is we're going to talk about 3+ on your AP exams because those are the scores colleges start to consider awarding credit for. And even if you get a 5, there are colleges that will not give you college credit for that. So I just want a disclaimer as we talk about this. Although we still strongly recommend taking these courses, sitting for exams, it may not equate to college credits. It typically depends on the caliber of the school that you're trying to get into and your major. So like, for example, I was a math major. NAS is a great school, but I got a 3 on my AP Calc exam because I was a math major. NAS wasn't going to take that, right? But I got a 4 on my AP Bio, and they took it because I was not a science major. So sometimes that happens too. Sorry, humble brag.
Is just for like the German thing, because I know
Yeah.
I'm deciding this right now. We are talking about whether we're going to take the AP exam or if we're going to go through and get credit through Oswego State.
Sure.
Does that have to do with maybe why people aren't taking the AP because they're taking the credit through an
Yep,
accredited.
that could be another
program.
decision maker, because you probably already paid once to get your SUNY college credit, which again, they don't transfer everywhere. And I just want parents to know that just because you have these college credits, even our SUPA courses through Syracuse don't always transfer everywhere.
SUNY's transferred to all SUNY's and Kings.
That is a sell.
And that's why, that is exactly why the German, I think then Spanish, sometimes one is one, you can make a choice.
Yep.
Some people, just really depends.
A lot of our upper level courses, AP courses, are co-sat with a SUPA or a dual credit option. So kids have multiple ways to potentially get credits.
So like the 17 AP German students that didn't take the AP exam, it's possible they did one of these other?
Yeah, they
Okay.
probably did the Yes We Go. I
In
would imagine.
Spanish too, that was a,
Oh, they already had it.
right,
Yeah.
because you only have to take it to a certain point.
Okay.
So they're already getting that credit, and if it's not their major, they probably wouldn't have to take it in high school or in college.
And again, this level of rigor is exactly what we want for all of our students, college bound or not. If you're taking AP courses, you're getting some of the most intense instruction, rigorous instruction that we offer. So we're excited.
We've
talk
also
about that.
studied this throughout the years. Many colleges will recognize Fairport and the level of rigor and the comprehensive nature of our classes. So even though we don't weight, they put weight on our work. So
That's another
that's important to know. That I think, Mr. Clark, we've studied that multiple different times, and that came back from all the universities and colleges we talked to.
Yeah, I mean, I think they gauge a lot of the decisions on what was available to you and how did you challenge yourself. So the transcript tells the story. So if you had availability to 16 APs and you took one and you have 100 average, it's going to undercut your transcript. You get my point.
So when it's budget season and we're talking about comprehensive programming, that right there is a story in and of itself. And I'm looking over to our storyteller. That's why this is incredibly important, because it makes a difference to our kids' experiences, not only in school, but when you apply to school.
Yep. All right, I'll just whip through these real quick. You'll see this is historical data for just Fairport, 3, 4s, and 5s. Over some of these, I'm not going to spend much time because I want to turn it over to our teachers. We offer, I should know this number, how many AP courses do we offer, Bob?
We just added 2. I think it's 16.
I believe it's 16. Kids are allowed to come and sign up for other AP courses, and that happens randomly. They'll
can
take
challenge
something. You can just take that if that's something that you happen to be studying. So there's a lot here. We're doing a great job. There's one I wanted to highlight. Okay, first of all, look at those physics scores. Wow, that's a lot of 5s. That's and consistently a lot of 5s, right? That's really lovely. There's 2 different physics. You can do the electricity and magnetism, or you can do mechanics. Again, like kids that decide to do this are typically exactly who you think would be taking these courses, and they're really, really good students, and they perform on exams, which is really wonderful. There's AP, Spanish, here's stats. I know I have my math guys in the room right now that are gonna turn this over to them in a second. US history, world history. We also offer European history, and for not a lot of students have taken it over the years, but all right. So that's a whole lot of graphs and data. And again, if there's any questions on anything that I went through quickly, please, you can ask Superintendent Provenzano, and I can go into more detail on anything else that's needed. I'm going to hand it over to Jackie Sauter and Jessica Hagedorn, sorry, who are going to talk about AP Humanities for you. All right?
Okay, so hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jessica Hagedorn. I'm a social studies teacher here at Fairport High School. I'm in my 21st year, actually, and of that time, I think 18 years have been dedicated specifically to AP US History, primarily the Humanities program, but I have taught the standalone as well. I'm also SUPA Econ certified. I went to training for AP World at St. John Fisher, and I served as a rater this year for the AP exam. So I was really proud to do that. Mr. Clark provided the opportunity for me, and it gave me a ton of information just serving as a rater, recognizing what they will accept and what they won't accept, and then being able to bring that back for my colleagues and for my students, who Mallory is one of my students.
I know I was going to clarify that.
Yeah, yeah. I am a Red Raider, right? I'm sorry.
Raider for life.
Yeah, so in terms of social studies, and I'm sure a lot of you know this, but just to share some information, we do offer a lot of classes here at Fairport. The first opportunity that students have with AP programming for social studies would be in their sophomore year, though they can take the pre-AP their freshman year. So sophomores, they would take like AP World, and that is equivalent to our Global 2 programming. As juniors, they're open and available to taking AP US History. And with AP US History, there's two options for students, which I think is amazing for our school district and for our students specifically. There is the standalone. And what that basically means is that you can take the AP US History class, and that's it, if that's the only class you'd like to take. We also offer the Humanities program, and that's what I'm most affiliated with and know the most about. Like I said, out of those 18 years, 17 of them have been teaching AP Humanities. I was lucky enough to have Jake Provenzano, and he did a great job in the program. So surprising, no. And I also had Nick in Super Econ, so that was always really nice too. Yeah, it was great. He was great. And then from there, we also do offer, as we were discussing, AP Euro, that's primarily taken by seniors. And then we just added, as you're well aware, of African American Studies, which serves as more of a seminar. And just like everything else, and I think that might be one of the reasons, though I am not a professional in this, that the Regents exam is moving to a 5-point scale. They're trying to mimic the AP exams more, and you can see that in the test-taking strategies and the skills that they have to use. So just to talk a little bit more about humanities, but also like what our enrollment is, I think, we saw a lot of that statistics and data, but we're really proud of our students. In terms of English, and I'll get to the social studies in just a second, we do have 2 AP courses available. AP English Language, which students usually take as juniors, and then AP Literature and Composition. And they generally take that as seniors as well. So great opportunities for everybody. And with humanities, what they do is we basically combine AP US History with AP Language Arts. So students generally start out with me in social studies, myself or Mr. Sachs or whomever is teaching it. And then we ultimately end up spending 80 minutes together because then they move to English together. So they're taking 2 AP classes back to back. And the beauty of this program, and Mallory could probably speak a little bit to this, is that number one, the kids get so close. Like, it's so important to see that the family community building that actually takes place. I always say to my students, you're gonna turn into like a little family, and they're like, yeah, okay, Mrs. Hagedorn. And at the end of the year, they're like, you're right. So I'm always really proud about that. The other thing is that we can provide more chronology, and especially with alignment with the courses. So for instance, while we're talking about colonial American history in periods 1 and 2 in US history, they may be reading The Crucible with their English teacher and getting a more well-rounded perspective of what life was like then, and talking about fiction versus nonfiction and being able to paint these bigger pictures. They do take the 2 separate exams, just to be clear. So they are included in those statistics for AP US and AP ELA Language Arts. But like I said, we're really proud of this. So I just want to highlight a few things. And I know we've been talking a lot of statistics, so stop me or if you have any questions or whatever. This year, we have 295 students enrolled in at least one AP Social Studies course, which is amazing. We have so many students enrolled, and I'm really proud of that. We have 276 students enrolled in an AP English course, which again are great numbers. Generally speaking, we have high turnouts of students, as you can see. I know for social studies, we run about 5 sections of AP World, and we run about 6 sections of AP US History, which is another point that we're very proud of. Some students are a little reluctant to take an AP class and might struggle a little bit with having the confidence to take it. And what we end up seeing, interestingly, is a higher rate of students, enrolling in AP US than AP World. And we kind of attribute that to a couple of things. Number one, obviously, being comfortable with the content, right? They learn the history in 7th and 8th grade, and they feel really strong about US history, where World can seem a little, big, right? And overwhelming to them. Another thing I think is just like support. Right? Support from their teachers and support from their parents and support from their guidance counselors and saying, you can do this. Like, you got a 100 on your Regents exam, or you got a 100 in the course average. Why aren't you challenging yourself more? And then obviously word of mouth. And I think there's a lot of fun that's had in a lot of these classes and a lot of great opportunities. So I think all of those things combine. Now I know we talked a little about statistics, but I do want to point out that historically, our school district has been about 0.5 points higher than the state average, and then about 0.6 to 0.7 points higher than the overall global average, which I think is amazing. So we are well above where New York falls and where the global students fall. So just looking at this year specifically, like we said, we had 158 students take the AP US History exam, and our average was a 3.87 out of 5 points, which is excellent. And of course, that's the average, so we have kind of all over there. If you're curious about what New York State was, they were actually, excuse me here, they were 3.41. So again, that much difference, and then the global average was 3.30. So we're having great success in these classes. I don't know specifically what the world, statistics are, only because I have access to the AP US programming. So, but I think there's a lot of skills that are built, and it's one of the reasons why we love these AP programs. And I love a lot talking about how students, it's more about the journey than it is the end result. And I think there's so many skills that AP World or AP US or AP, any of the ELA programs bring. Time management skills is huge. They always talk about this. How am I going to fit this into my life? What is a priority? So triaging is what we call it in our class, right? Triaging, what is most important? What is of lesser importance? And then kind of going from there. We really strive a lot to have students engage in the learning. And you're gonna see that in the video. Sorry, I'm a nerd. I love doing all this stuff. And I'm also a mother myself. So when I have students and I'm allowed to take pictures of them, I take a lot of pictures of them. And I put it on the Google Classroom so their parents can see as well. Because we do have a capstone project that kind of encapsulates everything that we do. And that's known as the Museum Corner. It's very specific to humanities. It's the only environment that can kind of set that up. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But basically, we are having the students engage. We encourage them to recognize patterns within history, similarities and differences, cause and effects. And a lot of these skills not only can be applied to coursework in college, but also could be applied in the working world, right? Be it from journalism or public policy or being a teacher or being an engineer or an electrician. So all of these skills can be used outside of the classroom and really transcend the walls of Fairport High School. I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point. Okay, so do you want me to talk a little bit about the Museum Corner? In this video, you're gonna see everything that we do in humanities. And we have been really lucky from the support that we receive, not only from our board and our superintendents, but also from our building leadership. And bottom line is that we have taken our students on a number of field trips. With the AP Humanities programs, we try to say we not only need to know about US history, but Fairport and the greater Rochester area. So one of the first trips that we go on is to the Memorial Art Gallery. And the enduring concept there is, what is the American identity? And has it changed, or has it been staying the same over years, changing continuity over time? So we bring the students to the Memorial Art Gallery, they look at American art, and they're supposed to find a piece that really speaks to them and indicates to them, this is what America stands for me. From there, we go and visit the graves at Mount Hope Cemetery of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, talking about how two people in the Rochester community have made such an impact on the world, and how anybody can do that. And then we throw in some fun, and we go to the Rochester Public Market and eat empanadas, and that's their favorite part. And we digest literally everything that we've learned. The second field trip that we go on is in March, and it's wonderful because the person who runs the public policy program at RIT is a Fairport alum. And so he has created what they call an AP US History Day at RIT. And so we load up the humanities students, usually it takes about 5 buses, and we go over to RIT and we spend the day at RIT, and they bring in college professors. They talk to the students about different topics. This year was the First Amendment rights and how far those go and how restrictive they can also be. And then this year they had something wonderful. They had Fairport or a Frederick Douglass impersonator. And he was fantastic. Our students were asking him questions and he was answering as if he was Frederick Douglass. And it just seemed to make the whole thing go completely in a 360, right? It was all connected from being at Frederick Douglass's grave to the meeting this impersonator. And then obviously we do a lot of different activities, a lot of hands-on activities in the museum corner, which like I said is our capstone project. So I think that's really kind of it. I'm happy to share answer any
Can I ask a quick
questions.
question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the thing at RIT is that you said it's for U.S. history. So
It is.
do only the humanities classes go, not the U.S. AP?
So they're available too. It's been promoted by the humanities teachers. So Joe has reached out specifically to me. I have a connection through him through like, continuing education programs. And he said, this is great for Fairport and I'm a Fairport alum. So myself and Kevin Sachs were like, we need to do this. So only reason why the standalone AP U.S. history does not go is because there hasn't been specific interest, or I don't know how to say, like, they haven't followed up.
Curious.
Yeah.
Because if it was specific to U.S. history, I didn't know if they all went or if.
Yeah, specific to U.S. history. And there are other schools that attend too,
Yeah,
which
I
is always
figured.
kind of nice. Yeah, so we are always looking for more people to join these activities and opportunities. So as long as we'll pay for it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a great opportunity. So. And unfortunately, we don't have any AP classes when it comes to senior year, but we do offer the SUPA class. So we have Syracuse University Project Advanced Econ. I have taught that. Myself and Mrs. Bruckle are the two certified teachers to teach that. And it gives them credit for both intro micro and intro macro. And I'm wrong about that. I'm sorry. It's a 200 level, 203 level class. So it's a great opportunity. And most students end up getting college credits for it. But once again, it's just like AP. It all depends on what your major is and where you go. So, yeah, I think, any other questions?
Always looks good on a transcript.
Always looks good on a transcript, yeah. Yeah. I originally made this video for my students at the end of the year and then just kind of changed some stuff, so.
Oh, yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. Mallory, anything you want to add to your experience so far? Am I allowed to ask Mallory a question?
So I'm in humanities this year, and it's been like 8 days, but it's a really, it's so far I'm having a great time, and I was really nervous at the beginning because I got my Google Classroom, and I was like, I don't have like a really like good like friend that like I've been super close with. Like I knew everyone in the class, but I was like, oh, like who am I gonna sit with? What is this gonna be like? Because you are together for like 80 minutes, and if you're walking together in the hallway, it's like almost 90. And I was like, okay. But I think both teachers, I have Mr. Garbarino too and Mrs. Hagedorn, but both have made a really good experience for me so far. And I think I'm already learning a lot just because of both. And that's the reason I took it, because I feel like it would be better for me as a student to like really connect things like completely. And I haven't even noticed that like I wasn't really close with anyone, because when she said it at the beginning, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be that close with all the people in my class. But now it's like we're already really close, and we all joke around, but we also like get a lot of stuff done, and everyone's been doing good so far. So I think it's really good.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say I took it last year, but I had Mr. Sachs and Mr. Byer, so we had the opposite teachers. But Mr. Sachs, Mr. Byer said the same thing, that like you're gonna be so close with these people, and like all of us were like, okay, like whatever, every teacher says that, but like it's true. The 80 minutes makes a big difference being together, and like now when I have leadership, I'm like, I don't follow these people to English anymore. And and like the museum corner is really like, it's a really fun experience, even though when you're looking at it at the beginning of the year, it looks really stressful. Like it's really worth it. And I think having the English and the social studies connected was like such like a different way of like looking at it. And like AP US was my favorite class last year, which was shocking because the previous year world was my least favorite, and but humanities just like it really like spoke to me, and I really liked doing that last year.
From leadership to humanities, maybe that's something we can build on this fall. Share some experiences with some classmates too. That'd be fun.
I don't remember AP courses being that fun at all. And not only are they fun, you're also performing. So just a couple quick stats. Lit, last year, 95% of the students that took the exam got a 3 or higher. In U.S. history, 92% of the kids that took the exam got a 3 or higher. We don't talk about our AP scores often, and it's kind of on purpose. We don't like, you will never hear a conversation of me going to anybody and saying, we need you to get your AP scores up. That is never the conversation. If anything, the conversation will be, how do we get more kids to have this experience? So we talk about the scores here for the first time in, gosh, I don't know how long, maybe ever, that anybody can remember lately. But we will never have you won't ever see Bob calling a teacher in his office saying, what's going on with your AP scores? So we're only celebrating, always. So I'm really proud of that. And speaking of, let's hand it over to the math team. Stacy, we have with you. There's so many dress-up opportunities, right, Kevin? That seems like Kevin and Jeff love to have their kids dress up. So we have Kevin Laley and Jeff Cluse with us today.
Yes, so I brought this power team here with me to speak to all of the wonderful things. And what we are going to do is we're going to kind of highlight some huge accomplishments and opportunities that we've kind of increased for kids to taking advanced coursework, and kind of speak to some of the data with that. So I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll jump right in.
Sure. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kevin Laley. I'm currently the math lead teacher at the high school. This is my 18th year here, and I think for the past 10, I've taught AP Calculus AB. So that's what I'm going to be speaking mainly to. And
I'm Jeff Cluse. I am a math teacher. I have been here for 25 years. I was the math department lead teacher for the 13 years prior to Kevin, and I've taught AP Computer Science for 21 years.
And so when I took over from Jeff from being lead teacher a couple years ago, one thing through our department reviews that we do with Bob that I wanted to kind of look at was some of the AP results comparative to not just New York State and global that we all get in our reports, but also to area districts. And it's been a little difficult to come up with that information. Like the BOCES cohorts readily share Regents information, but it took me just reaching out to some teachers in other districts to see if they'd be willing to share their results. Not necessarily to, say, oh, we're doing so much better or worse than you, but more, if someone is doing much better than us, like maybe we could partner with them and see where we could improve. So that's still a work in progress, but what you're seeing up here is at least the Fairport results for the past few years in all of our exams. I've got the 23, 24, and 25 results. In the math department specifically, we just offer Calculus AB and versus Calculus BC. And if you're not familiar with the difference, AB Calc is essentially granting Calc 1 credit in college, although the actual curriculum covers most of Calc 2 in a typical college class as well. Calc BC moves at a faster pace and is for credit for Calc 1 and 2. But again, if you actually take calculus at a college level, it delves significantly into Calc 3 as well. AP Statistics has been growing since I started here 18 years ago. There's more and more requirements for kids in college to take a statistics course. And the tricky thing with math is that in order to make it to an AP Calc or AB or BC, you kind of have to be on the accelerated track early on, because just the way the courses are lined up, you really can't skip a year. You're missing too much information in order to be successful. Statistics is the one that is more available because the only prereq is Algebra 2, which most kids take their sophomore or junior year. Junior if they're on grade level, sophomore if they're accelerated. So pretty much everybody, not 100%, but everybody has the opportunity to enroll in AP Statistics if they'd like to. Computer science is kind of similar. We have a intro course, Computer Science 1 and Computer Science 2, that kids can start taking their sophomore year. And so they're able to take AP Computer Science, usually junior or senior year. So there is still some options there.
Yeah, what's interesting about computer science is it doesn't fall in anyone's natural sequence of like U.S. history or world history or a science. So I have to recruit and convince people to do it. It is an elective, a complete elective, and we offer an intro course. Most school districts do not attempt to take a student who doesn't know any programming and get them to the AP exam in May. Most school districts have an intro course that leads to AP just because it's the nature of the curriculum. It's very hard to get it done in a 9-month sequence. So we have that intro course, and it is an elective. So it is, the numbers are dependent upon the interest of the kids and getting them interested in the program. What's interesting, it's gone up and down because of trends in college majors. Computer science majors went up in demand, and it was viewed as a job that was high paying and very highly sought after. It's interesting right now, we're seeing a little bit of a downtrend only because AI seems to be stealing some entry-level jobs. If you read that, students coming out of college with a computer science major are having a little trouble right now finding entry-level jobs in that industry. So we'll see how that affects numbers in the future. But I always sell it as it doesn't have to be your career path. These are skills that will suit you in engineering and other things, even if you don't want to major in computer science. So that's kind of how we get kids interesting. What's also interesting for me is if I have 25 kids in AP Computer Science in any given year, typically 10 to 15 of them are really wanting to major in computer science. Like, my students leave me and go directly to major in those things, which is super exciting and fun to watch.
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk too much about the results since we kind of gone over those, but we all are pretty excited about the last year results, because you can see that for all of our courses, we're almost a full point or even more above the New York average and global average. So they've been doing really well. The challenge with any AP course in New York State, at least, is the school year, right? So AP exams are given in May. So a lot of the country starts early to mid-August and has a whole extra month of instruction. So unfortunately for some students, we do have to give summer homework, at least in calculus and statistics. I don't think computer science does.
And we use the intro course as that development, and that works for us.
But that helps us get through the curriculum a lot faster. And I would say from AB standpoint, at least, we kind of teach it very theoretical early on and less application-based, and we finish our curriculum probably around March. So then from March to May, we can start hitting those AP application questions, and now that they've got a solid foundation of the mechanics behind it all, they can start applying it and seeing what the AP questions actually ask them to do. And when they first see that, it's like a big deer in headlights because they've been just doing your standard questions, checking the answer in the back of the book, saying, I got it, and move on. But now it's these big open-ended questions that require you to not to just take knowledge from calculus, but there's some random geometry formula from 10th grade that you need in this one. And then there's some algebra formulas that we haven't used in 3 years that come up in this one. Calculus, I'm getting excited just talking about it, but I'm a numbers person. Calculus is really that one class where all of your years of math up until then come together. And I think kids really see that and take a lot of pride when they realize that, oh, it actually does connect somehow, and this is how it connects.
Well, and the ahas are there, right? Like the kids' performance obviously shows that the process and the product actually do end up with a nice result. So, yeah. So did you want to add anything else?
The only thing I was going to say is that like when I talk to students and parents, it's interesting because if I just taught kids to code in the Java language and we did projects, maybe none of my kids would pass the AP exam. Taking and passing an AP exam is a separate skill. And we have to run both things parallel all throughout the year. Sometimes students in my class can write programs, and sometimes they need my assistance to get them through. But taking that test can be just like almost like too big of a challenge, and that's where you get sometimes kids with a 1 or a 2. It's like, wow, this is like a whole separate skill. I have to sit down for 3 hours and do 40 multiple choice questions and write code by hand under time constraints. So that's a different skill than writing a code or program over the course of 2 weeks. So.
But you still had 90% last year, get a 3 or higher.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that Dr. T mentioned earlier is that we'll never really look at like the results as a sole indicator, but what we have done and we've been kind of charged with and we intrinsically are motivated to do is to get more opportunities for kids to take advanced coursework in math. And looking for ways where we don't just have a singular on-ramp where you're accelerated and then you're never going to get back, on that track again. And I think one of the major points of pride that our department has is over the last couple of years, we've been able to find more opportunities for kids to jump in and take those leaps when possible. And so I think, some of the big things first, these are the courses that we just spoke about. Any highlights from that?
We've gone over it.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is this slide here. This is really like a huge accomplishment in with our team. Over the course, it used to be you were only identified if you went from 5th to 6th grade or sometimes randomly in elementary school. We're really focusing in on letting kids develop K-5, providing enrichment as much as we can, but then really thinking about when we're making those transitions, really giving those opportunities to students. And so 5th to 6th grade last year, there was about 90 students that were recommended to and, take accelerated coursework, which is that compacted math. Last year, this is really exciting. We have another on-ramp, which is between 7th and 8th grade, where a student would go from 7th grade on level to a summer 8 condensed. We revamped the whole program, the summer opportunity to provide more touch points and supports for students that wanted to take that path. We've reached out and we were able to grow that from 6 students from summer 2024 to 23 successful students this past summer.
Stacey, do you know if it was sort of even between the 2 middle schools?
It was, yeah. Okay. It was pretty even. We ended up with 2 instructors and it was a really great model. Obviously it worked well, right? We were almost 4 times the number of kids that have now jumped on the next ramp. One of the major things that Kevin has really done with the 9th grade team and the 10th grade team is to work at finding another ramp for kids to jump back on so that they could get to calculus if they wanted to. And that is between 9th and 10th grade. Do you want to speak to kind of what your process and how you did that?
It almost wasn't even my idea. Like, I can think of a girl named Allie about 10 years ago who was in my computer science class actually, and she said, yeah, I'm taking geometry and algebra 2 at the same time right now. And I had never heard that before, and I looked at her and I said, you're insane, and why would you ever do that? But the more I think about it, those are the 2 math courses that really don't rely on each other. They're such different courses. Geometry and algebra 2 don't overlap a lot. So gradually, I've heard more and more students doing that. So last couple of years, I've kind of asked the Minerva teachers at the end of 9th grade to just, when you're presenting classes for next year, mention that this is an option. If you're really strong in math, if you like math, if you're hoping to get to calculus by the time you graduate high school, now's the time to try to take geometry and algebra 2 at the same time. And last year, 13 students did it successfully. This year, we currently have 23 students enrolled. And that's really exciting to me because that's a whole nother section of calculus in 2 years. 23 kids who never would have taken calculus in high school now are. Yeah. And
it's huge.
Without being like, tooting our own horn, the Fairport experience is important for us.
No,
right?
it's worth tooting because.
So to get them to that point without actually skipping a grade level or skipping content is huge, because previously kids try to test out of algebra 2. They'll take geometry, they'll try to study real hard, get some tutors over the summer, and if they get an 85 in the regions, then they're allowed to move on. But there's so many gaps they're missing in that. And they can maybe teach to the test to get that 85, but you're not really having the full experience, and they struggle later on. Here, those 23 kids are getting the entire curriculum they always would have gotten, and they end up doing great afterwards. So there's not a great opportunity between 11th and 12th, or 10th and 11th grade. So if you're in geometry and you realize you should have done both courses at the same time, we usually recommend take algebra 2 your junior year. And then kind of the last opportunity, which isn't the best option, but it works, is taking pre-calc over the summer at MCC between junior and senior year. Yeah, I've had a lot the last couple, not a lot, but a handful in my classes the last couple of years. And there's always gaps for those kids. And I let them know, like, when I say you did this in pre-calc, if you didn't, come talk to me after class and we can work through it. But it works. Pre-calc is really just a extension of algebra 2. So if you've got those foundations really well, you'll be okay. But it's not the preferred method, I guess.
I just think overall, having kids develop very differently in their time from kindergarten through senior year, right? And so providing opportunities and math is very sequential. So it's not as easy to just jump right into AP, calculus if you haven't taken pre-calculus so it's a little bit more difficult for you to jump into some of those opportunities. And I think the more that we can just have the conversations of it's not your like final destination. If you choose that you at some point have an interest and want to keep going, here are some options. And so we're really proud of the number of kids that we're now like increasing the opportunities for calculus before they leave us.
As a parent, thank you so much, because I remember when I first joined the board and they were like, okay, your kid's in kindergarten, but you need to set an alarm on your phone so that when they're in 5th grade, you make sure that they do this. And I was like, for what? And they're like, they can't do calculus if you don't. And I'm like, they're just learning to read. Like,
yes.
So I do appreciate this, because every kid is so
thing.
different, and there should be as many chances to challenge as.
You've been really, really intentional about how to do it and where to do it. And like Jeff was saying, it's really recruiting, right? So the math teachers are the ones that are identifying kids who might have missed you, or maybe you weren't ready yet. So in asking them to either do the summer program or to take the double courses, right? So all of that serves these guys in the end.
And the power of tapping somebody in and saying, like, I think you're ready for a challenge.
Yeah.
So the summer programming at the middle level, can you speak to that? Because that's an investment.
Yeah, we shifted it to it's a model that's almost like a hybrid that allows flexibility for families in summer, but there are 2 teachers, and each of the teachers, they had open office hours each week in person. So kids would come in and they would get help or go through, part of the prep. It's a lot of just curriculum, really, the kids doing practice. And then they would be able to come in and answer their questions, but it allowed flexibility for families. Like if they were out of town, they could go to a different building. And they also offered virtual check-ins too. So there was just a lot more touch points, and they were scheduled already. The schedule was produced right in June, when the students found out that this would be an option for them. So families knew like what they had available to them. I think before it was more of like a little bit, it was hard. Like people did more of it an independent study for the student, and we really wanted to make it more equitable and accessible for families so that they didn't have to get tutors. They could bring their kids in, and the teachers that were overseeing it could help them work through some of the stuff that they may or may not know how to do. They ran like a Google Classroom on top of that. And then we had designated days where they have to go through a significant amount of curriculum. They have to do basically 8th grade curriculum so that they could jump from 7th to algebra. So there's a condensed, it's why it's a condensed summer 8. But they map it out. They kind of went through, and they had a little bit more detailed this time, where their unit tests were framed. You can take it on this day or this day. So families would come bring their kids in, they'd take them, and then over the course of the summer, they were able to kind of complete the course on their own. Now, some students chose an option to just, here's the work I have. I'm going to work independently. I'll pop in for these assessment dates, and that's it. But it was more accessible and a little bit more structured, which allowed that for students and families.
And I know we don't. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, well,
but yeah,
that's
science.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it for math.
No video for math. I mean,
No video.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
our field
come to us to
trips.
experience.
Yeah, it's really about.
I was
being
going to
in
add
the
one more
classroom.
thing right when you spoke, and it was funny because we were thinking something similar with that. We have had conversations with families that it's okay to not take calculus in high school. You can take pre-calculus, and you can go to college and take calculus 1, and you can still major in engineering, you can still major in physics, and you will be fine. There's a lot of like fear of missing out, and that is not closing any doors for you. Do well, go to college, you can still be okay. So it's not like everyone has to be in calculus in high school. You will be successful even if you're not.
Yeah.
Where were you with my mother?
I know, and like your children, right? Too. So like if my 2 kids were very different, and one of them I was like, no, accelerated isn't going to be for that student. They're just going to learn everything and be solid in there, because I think the pace may have just been too much. So it's all about knowing your kids, but knowing that there's opportunities too. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Science, just kind of similar, just an overview of similar to humanities, but also same with math. It is sequential. So some of the courses that we offer that are APs do follow a sequence, but our enrollment is generally great. We have a high enrollment for SUPA and AP Bio, which is a co-seated class. And that results in almost up to 8 credits if possible. We have 1 section of AP Chem, 1 section of AP Physics, and 2 to 3 sections of SUPA Forensics, which is a really cool course. Here are some points of pride as well. I think you're seeing a theme, like in Fairport. 1, we have great engagement with our AP and advanced course level work. We also have high rigor, and I think that high rigor leads to these results. So while it might not always be super easy, and they might not be always getting like 90 pluses, the level of rigor and the expectation and the advanced coursework programming that we have really sets our kids up for success. And so you can see, overall, we're beating the county and we're beating the state, and we feel very proud of how our students do with the coursework. And so similar to everything that Jess and Kevin and all the teachers say, we feel super proud that we have such a robust offering for our students and our community, taking advantage of it. It's actually almost hard sometimes for kids to make choices. And so I think that's probably the biggest is it's hard to make a choice because you can't always fill your whole day with AP classes. And music and all the things. It is what a problem to have though. What a problem to have. And I think that's the biggest thing is we're giving kids these opportunities to tap into their interests, to go in and out, to get challenged, to be exposed to a level of rigor that, we can feel proud of. And obviously, just as kids, my kids that have gone through the program, I feel like it's awesome, to be able to have this. But same reasons that Jess mentioned, our AP courses in science really are doing the same, giving kids that hands-on experience, preparing them for that rigor, using their study habits, the workload, the critical thinking, the application. There's some statistics there that students that are in AP courses, they're more likely to have success when they go off to their first years of college. And then also a lot of our courses align to those pre-med, pre-vet, engineering, physical therapy, any kind of medical fields. And so our kids do leave here feeling quite prepared. And I don't know what else I have on here. I think that's it. The end.
Yeah, so that was amazing. All of our educators were here.
Yeah. One last thing, AP exams, you don't have to report those to your colleges. So next year, when they are either free or a very low cost, you can take that, and if you get a 1, you get a 1. You don't have to report that. It's your choice. So just another plug for AP.
No, that's true.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great work. Thank you for all your attention to
What
this.
a way to start the school year.
Absolutely. Celebrate.
I know.
Celebrate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's like a challenge.
So-
Can we break we got there.
So I was trying to do some calendar management with our president and vice president, just because this was such a powerful presentation, didn't want to interrupt the flow of it. I'm making a recommendation, if it's okay, that we take the budget goals, we move that to the discussion portion of our business meeting, so that we don't take away, I know we have to get to an executive session.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to move what he just said.
Budget goal.
Budget goals.
To move budget goals to the business meeting.
During discussion.
I'll second that.
Mary Caitlin seconds. Sarah, you good? All in favor? Aye.
Sarah, you'll make me sound like
Like she knew what he was saying.
5-0. Okay. Well, thank you again. We appreciate you taking time tonight.
Thank you so much.
And if you want to stay for the board meeting, we'll be here. But I do need a motion.
Thank you. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jess.
true.
Drive safely, everyone.
Yep. All in favor? Aye. Executive. And just if you're listening at home, we're reconvening just to exit, adjourn, and then our business meeting will be at 7 p.m.